Now, Gaurav, you can talk now, please.
Yeah. Hi, Rohit. Am I
Welcome.
audible?
Yeah, welcome,
Yes,
CA
yes, you're
Gaurav.
audible.
Yeah. Thank you, Sai. Thank you very much.
Yes.
No specific observation from my side. The accounts prepared by the treasurer have been audited, with there are no pending observation as such. Back to you, Sai.
Really appreciate CA Gaurav. I think we have been stunning performance for the last 5 to 7 years. You have been continuously auditing our CA chapter, and year on year we really appreciate your, in terms of the efforts you are putting in and getting our auditor accounts audited in a very small amount of time. Really appreciate your time and efforts. So once we are back to normal scenario, then definitely we'll have some sort of momentum and we'll, in terms of creative and everything. Okay, thanks a lot. Now, coming to conclusion remarks, I would like to give some of my conclusion remarks. As so, let me first very good morning to my Kuwait chapter fraternity, EC members and advisory. First of all, let me appreciate our stunning secretary and toastmaster CA Deepak Bindal, the backbone of the committee, for briefly describing the activities of the chapter. And since Aditya is not here, who is always a Mr. Dependable guy for us for the CA chapter, we are going to definitely miss him. He is just not only a treasurer for the chapter, he actively manages so many different tasks of the chapter, other than the capacity of the treasurer. Now, at this juncture, I would wish to inform that I am eternally grateful for getting the privilege to serve the chapter. The year 2019-20 will remain as one of my glorious and memorable years, as I was very blessed and fortunate that my passion to serve the CA profession and CA institute has been fulfilled, which gave me abundant future and bright career path. I would like to walk through some of the key milestones achieved. Uh, Others, can you put in the mute, either Rohit or Deepak or Kaiser, someone, because there is a bit of disturbance coming. Okay, great. So these are some of the key glorious milestones which we achieved in the last year 2019-2020. So this is the installation on 4th of May when we installed the committee, which includes the executive committee and subcommittee. And these are some of the events which we covered in the year 2019-20 in terms of the CPE events and CSR events, career counseling we have done, social and sports events we have done, industrial tour for the kids, and the first annual international conference we have done. So these are some of the glossary of the events. And we almost done 15 CPE events conducted. As part of our continuous learning and skill development activity, we continue to organize a large number of seminars, workshops, and conferences during the year in an effort to provide the maximum possible opportunities for the members to interact with each other, as well as share their experiences and provide a systematic effect on the totality of the professional expertise and excellence. So on an average, we organize 15 CP events, which includes the 4 online webinars because of the current situation around. And coming to next slide, this is our first international conference. So this is one of the projects very close to my heart, which the successful launch of the first international conference held in November 2019 at Radisson Blue Hotel. So which was a huge hit. I think the planning for this nearly happened for the last 6 months, which was it's an enormous task, and all our executive committee members and subcommittee members really gave their hearts for their time and everything to make this conference a huge hit. Really appreciate for their time and efforts again. And these are the 2 sports events which we conducted in the year: bowling tournament and as well as the badminton tournament. So this has brought really an energetic side of the members also, not only members and as well as their families, connecting to their families. And these are the 3 CSR activities which we did. The first one, in terms of the COVID-19 crisis, we donated to Kuwait Red Crescent Society to show the solidarity towards their humanitarian efforts in the Kuwait. So, and also the blood donation camp in the last year as part of our CA Day celebrations on 1st of July 2019. We have done the blood donation camp. And food distribution, we have done the iftar food distribution packets to around 300 packets in the Mahula labor camp. And we have conducted one educational tour for children on 19th of November. Around 67 kids participated in this tour, and it's a good response. And we also thank CA Jatin for really allowing us to go inside the Kitco and giving us this memorable experience for the kids. And career counseling, yes, we have done 2 career counseling. As if we can see, the first one is we have done in the Bhavans, Bharata Vidya Bhavan, which CS Sriram and CA Kaiser has taken the lead in organizing it. And the second one we have done in FIPES, which is Fahil Al Wataniya Indian Private School, which is called as DPS on 5th of December. So we also thank Prashant Shetty and CA Santosh for leading this. And awards, yes, this is the most memorable event. We got on the 70th annual function, we got the third prize in the best overseas chapter, which was awarded by the Lok Sabha Speaker Shri Om Birla and Shri Anurag Thakur, MOS Finance, Corporate Affairs, and Shri Prafula Chatterjee, ICA President. And finally, the MOU signing. This has been really thanks to all the past chairmen who has put their entire efforts, a lot of efforts, and finally under my tenure, this has finally been signed. And also we need to thank the ICA president who flew all the way from India to make this event memorable. So with this, I would like to conclude my events, what all we achieved. So the journey continues. Definitely there is a new leadership coming, which I will introduce in a short while. And also we have done a small amendment to the amendments to the bylaws, which is to the clause number 13. I will read out for the sake of members. The office bearers who relinquish their term shall continue to be the executive committee members until the end of their 3-year term as executive committee members, except, this is only the sentence we added, except for the chairman, who shall vacate his or her position in the executive committee upon the end of his term as chairman. So once the chairman term is finished, he can exit rather than continuing for the next 3 years. Thereafter, the vacating chairman shall become member of the advisory committee. The vacancy arising in the executive committee shall be filled by the executive committee by nominating a new member or members to the executive committee, whose term shall end along with other members of the executive committee. Such nominated member or members of the executive committee shall enjoy all rights. So this is also important. They will also enjoy all rights as executive committee member or members, including voting rights. So this is one of the amendment which we made to clause number 13. We will also circulate this the amendment to all the members for their benefit. So that's how it is. We just want to make a small amendment for the benefit of the executive committee and the members at large. Hope this is acceptable amendment to all the members. Now I would like to extend my warm greetings from the bottom of my heart to each and every executive committee member and subcommittee team for their unconditional support and relentlessly responding to my calls and messages, and to all the members of the chapter for their encouragement and active participation. Now it's time to pass on my chairmanship to a very passionate and highly experienced CA Kaiser Shakir, who is currently the vice chairman now. He will become the chairman. So now I welcome CA Kaiser to introduce his team. And then after the introduction, we will welcome CA Dayanivas Sharma, who is a Central Council member, who will give a keynote address. Thanks a lot. Over to you, CA Kaiser.
Thank you very much, Sai, for your introduction. Dear fellow members, good morning. My appointment as a chairman comes at a very crucial time when the world is grappling with the novel coronavirus. To begin, let me wish you good health and hope you all are staying safe. I will connect with you in more detail in days to come. However, today we're short of time, so let me just introduce you to the new executive committee. Along with that, we've received around 7 nominations from new members who would like to join the committee and serve. We've included them in the subcommittee, and I'll name them as we move forward. So let me start introducing the members. This is, of course, myself, the chairman. I have CA Deepak Bindal, Vice Chairman. He works for Gulf Investment Corporation as Vice President Investments. CA Sriram Gopal Krishnan, he joins in as Secretary. He works for RSM International Albazi as partner. Interestingly, Sriram was associated with the chapter 10 years back before he left for greener pastures abroad. But he's back and it's kind of a ghar wapsi for him. CA Rabindranath Gonsalves takes over as treasurer. He works for Gulf Bank, position Assistant General Manager Finance. CA Shailesh Laddad, Chairman Membership and Website Committee. He works for Dora Petroleum, Group Financial Controller Finance.
Kaiser, your screen is not shown here.
The screen is not there?
No. Just try once, otherwise let's continue.
Does it come?
No.
Okay.
Let's continue.
No, okay. I'll start. Okay. Does it come?
No.
Not at Kaiser.
Okay, just a second.
Try to share the screen. Yeah.
Coming now.
Now it is there. Yeah. So just
Okay.
you can briefly
So
take
I'll
through all
just
the slides.
Kaiser, Deepak, Sriram Gopal Krishnan, Secretary, CA Rabindranath, Treasurer, CA Shailesh Laddad, Chairman, CA Rohit Agarwal, Chairman, CPE Committee. He works for Al Mullah, position Group Manager. CA Shweta Shipra, Chairperson, PR Committee. She works for Trafalgar General, position Head of Finance. CA Trisha Dalmia, Chairperson, Sponsorship Committee, EY, position Manager. Now we have two women members in the committee this time. I think this is also one of the first times. CA Umesh Soni, Chairman, Social and Sports Committee, Al Mullah. So this is the executive committee for 2020-21. The subcommittee members, the nominations that we received have been incorporated, and they are part of the subcommittee as secretaries to the vice chairpersons or chairman. And these people, the chairman or the vice chairman of the subcommittee are the people who have been elevated from being secretaries last year. So that is CA Kriti, Vice Chairperson, CPE Committee, CA Dheeraj Soneja, Vice Chairman, PR Committee, CA Ganesh Tibrewal, Vice Chairman, Membership, CA Mathin, Vice Chairman, Sponsorship, CA Chirag, Vice Chairman, Social and Sports. Andalip Girkar is a new nominee who comes in as Secretary CPE. There is one more nomination that we received today morning that was from Anup Dhand, and he is incorporated under CPE. Of course, his name is not here, but welcome Anup. CA Mansoor Ali as Secretary PR Committee. CA Sarim Jamil, Secretary Membership. CA Naveen Bora, Secretary Sponsorship. CA Joel John, Secretary Social, and CA Rajesh as member of the Social Committee. So this would be the team that would be taking over. And of course, it's a big challenge and a big task that lies ahead of us, because the bar has already been raised in 2019-2020. And I'm sure we'll be able to, once we come back to normal, try whatever best we can. Not taking much time, I hand over to Sai to introduce the keynote speaker, and we take it up from here. Thank you.
Congratulations, Sia Kaiser and your team for 2020-21. We really appreciate for your introducing your committee, and our support will remain same whether we are in the committee or outside the committee. So definitely we bless you. God bless your efforts and your activities, the upcoming activities. So now let me welcome CA Dayanivas Sharma, who is a Central Council member of the ICI, who will give a keynote address about the ICI initiatives in the national building and also touch upon various digital initiatives undertaken by ICI. We must really appreciate for taking out his busy time and addressing his insights to our fraternity. He is a very dynamic person. Definitely you will be enjoying his session for next 5-10 minutes. Let me read out his profile for the benefit of the members. He is the chairman for the peer review board, and he is a convener for members and students service directorate, M&SS including SSP. He is a vice chairman digital accounting and assurance board, which is they call as DAAB, and he is also a member of UDIN directorate and digital transformation process reengineering group, and he is a member of multiple central committees and he is also chairman for the Center of Excellence, Hyderabad, and is also board member of XBRL India. On the personal front, he was qualified in 2005 and he was articled with the PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thereafter revived Lakshmi Nivas and Co. from one member firm to a 130 staff firm and contributed around 100 plus CS to the fraternity. Their group is one of its kind to be called as Indian multinational firms or Make in India firm of chartered accountants. He has been covered by a coffee table book and recognized as Young India Visionary by IMG Innovative Media Group in the whole of UAE. At ICA, national and international forums, he took sessions and seminars on 23 plus topics. So with this, I would like to welcome CA Daya Nivas Sharma. Please, I think now it's time for you to introduce yourself, to give your insights and share your thoughts. Please, what do you CA Daya Nivas Sharma? CA Daya Nivas Sharma, I think you need to unmute yourself. Yes, we can see you.
Yeah. So first of all, Sai, thank you very much, and I think a big round of applause for the kind of contribution which has been made. I just saw the presentation you made with regards to the activities which is done by Kuwait chapter, and I think the kind of vibration you people have gotten in that international country, I think is something impeccable, and we appreciate and congratulate you all people for holding the flag of the country at the top. And most important part is I wish you a great success, because two things which you have done, I think primarily I've noted down, was the international conference, first international conference, I think it was done in Kuwait. And the second is the MOU which has been signed by the Kuwait government, which is going to give us a lot of boosting to the entire ICI in the entire GCC and Arab countries, which is going to be something very, very positive for all our members. And Kaiser, congratulations to you to take over as a new chairman. And though we have not interacted much, but I can only see with your communication and the way you have been handling things that you will be another one more bar will go up. What has been said by Sai from there to what you are going to handle it going forward. Friends, I have been given an opportunity, and more importantly, yes, the entire managing committee members of Kuwait chapter and all the sub committee members, I congratulate you, and we look forward for your encouraging participation so that we can make things happen, and we'll make it much bigger going forward. And really happy to see a PR committee which has been made in the group, in the chapter, which actually will entail that we ensure that our reach out is happening in a very effective manner. So congratulations to you all, and I thank you all very much to call me as a keynote speaker on a topic of digital area, particularly with regards to robotic process automation. I was actually thinking, Venkat, to sit with a helmet so that I do one thing. One is basically I look like a robot, and second is RPAs, robotic process automation, is basically a protection from the entire COVID also. So friends, Venkat, I'm audible, right?
Yes, we are very much audible. We can see the vibrations. We can feel the vibrations already.
Thank you very much. Friends, first and the foremost thing, I'll take only 5 to 7 minutes, not more than that, to share certain important things. I'll be a little fast because the session is very important to be taken up, and Saurabh is fantastic speaker on that matter. A couple of very important things. We all should be proud that Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, which is formed by ICI, we are the first institute in the world to form such kind of board. And forget about this, not only this factor of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, but now ICI is actually taking a new step forward to create a global Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. I am fortunate that our committee is actually working on that particular aspect and ensuring that the earliest way possible we come out and register this Global Digital Accounting Assurance Board, where we are going to have members from across the world. Different country institutes are going to be part of it, and we are going to be the founder of this particular board as such, so that whatever the courses which we are doing in DAB, that can be actually replicated for the international chapters as well as international bodies for that matter, so that this pattern can move across the globe and it will be adopted globally. Friends, information system audit, which is one of the flagship course of this board, has 29,000 plus members who have qualified the information system auditor certification from India. Now we are in process of getting this thing registered with ANSI, so that our course of DAB will IAS will be equivalent to CISA globally, and our certificate will be globally accepted for the systems audit. Equally, we are coming out with 3.0 version of DAB ISA, which is going to be one of the most unique one, and which is going to be accepted across the world because it's the most advanced one. On the forensic accounting side, we have got close to 9,000 chartered accountants who have actually completed their course on forensic audit, which is now getting accepted across the country, and soon we are going to be accepted across the world because of one important factor that we are going to come out with, the standard on forensic audit, which will be, we are keeping our fingers crossed, so that we are the second country in the world to have the forensic standards much better and bigger than the other one which has been launched. Apart from that, we are launching L1 to L5 model of forensic, which means L1 is the course which is going to be introduced for our article students. We are just changing the curriculum and we are getting a forensic from the article stage itself. And L2 is going to be something which is like, a person who could not complete DISA or a forensic, he can actually sit and do a e-learning. L3 is the certification of forensic itself. L4 is going to be on the project and case basis studies, where we are going to give us participation certificate, and L5 is going to be GSFU certification. By virtue of that, you will be empaneled in 80 countries where GSFU is providing forensic services. Your names will be enlisted on this particular GSFU site, and anytime, whenever there is going to be a requirement of financial forensic, our chartered accountants will be accepted in those 80 countries. So that is one important part. Apart from that, from a Chartered Accountants Institute point of view, we have trained close to 2,000 plus members on blockchain technology certification courses, which itself is a big number to start with. And we are going to go for furthermore in the coming times. We have also done data analytics courses in multiple locations, and huge number of appreciation has been received from that point of view also. Apart from that, we'll be all happy to note that ICAEW, which is Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, is doing a joint research with ICI on robotic process automation, which is a discussion today. And you all will be happy to know that, you will be surprised rather, that in the world, India is one country which is adopted RPAs to a next level. So we have good number of examples for case studies which is going to come in. Friends, apart from that, please understand the emerging technologies. Today topic we have is F&A with robotic process automation. And F&A robotic process automation, when you talk about, I am talking about a situation where you have to talk, you cannot ignore talking about emerging technologies, which we need to really understand. These emerging technologies can be categorized into two parts, which we need to really understand. I have little time, so I am rushing it. But only thing is, just I am giving you an overview. Emerging technologies has two parts. One is with regards to efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and second is with regards to vigilance and governance. Now, if you talk about the ABCD of technology, I will just split this ABCD into two parts, which is basically efficiency and effectiveness, and vigilance and governance. In efficiency and effectiveness, data analytics, big data is going to be towards the efficiency and effectiveness, because you need to do a lot of things, and the output which is going to come is going to be of a huge value for you. Cloud computing is also going to enhance your efficiency and effectiveness for doing things. Then RPA, robotic process automation, which Saurabh is going to talk about, and it's going to be very interesting for you. This portion also is going to enhance a lot of your activity in day-to-day affairs. When you talk about governance and vigilance, I would like to say that artificial intelligence is effectively going to be used under the governance and vigilance mechanism, which most of the countries started using. Then when you talk about blockchain, yes, from a single entry to double entry, from double entry to triple entry, this is the concept which is going to enhance the governance system of the accounting packages which we are going to adopt in the entire organization structure. Then when you talk about cyber security, undoubtedly it requires a continuous vigilance, because the more and more technology we are going to use, the more we are vulnerable towards the security threats which are there. So friends, these all are moving towards such kind of scenarios which we can't even imagine. Couple of years back, if I would have spoken in any of the international chapters, particularly in the Gulf countries, you were not having income tax and other laws which were there. But now income tax and other laws are coming, and accounting is becoming very relevant and important with regards to multiple aspects. And more importantly, when you talk about anti-money laundering, is becoming one of the most crucial thing. And this transaction, this emerging technologies are going to address all these kind of issues in a larger way. Robotic process automation, I always say one thing: robotic and automation is a field of engineer or a IT consultant, but processes is the field of chartered accountants, because every process deviation actually takes you towards a fraud or might be a loss of revenue. So friends, take it from me, the new time is for us as professionals. How much ever we upskill ourselves is not going to be sufficient, because it's a changing dynamic environment. So I request you all people, use institute so much as possible, that these courses which are being given at a very discounted prices at our institute, which nowhere in the world happens, I request you all to actually use that. Digital Learning Hub has come out fantastic, close to 60 lakh minutes, which is 1 lakh hours. In these 2 months, our members have used this, and the most used one is RPA, which has been developed by Saurabh and his team, and which has been given to us to use it on the Digital Learning Hub. So I wish you all a great learning process. I have to go and attend one more meeting. Otherwise, I would have loved to sit and listen to everyone. But anything which is there, I am always available to our members. Venkat or Kaiser, you can reach out to me at any given point in time if you think that we need to do any program with regards to systems audit, forensic audit, blockchain, data analytics, or anything which is going to be relating to your profession. It is not a matter of being in industry or practice. It is what matters is you are a chartered accountant and you are going to have a 360-degree view of an organization. That is more important. We were relevant yesterday, we are relevant today, we will be relevant tomorrow. Be rest assured, we are always going to be there, and your institute is taking lot of efforts. It is putting in real compliments to the president, past president, and the vice president to participate in a larger way. And I think from last 2 years, the kind of interaction which is increased with our international chapters, we have 34 international chapters. It itself is a big achievement for all of us. Thank you, Venkat, for calling me. Thank you, Kaiser, and congratulations to you all people for having.
Thank you very much, Siadaya. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Siadaya. Really appreciate for your time. Honestly, it's I know that you have very tight, busy schedules. Despite that, you spent some time for us, and for giving an update on the ICA trends and ICA digital initiatives, what they are going to take up. And also, we see as a great role model to all of us, young CAs, as well as the people who want to steer their profession from a core finance to a IT mix of finance. It is you are really inspirational, and your pace and the vision is very remarkable to each and every CA here. So with this, I would like to thank everyone and for attending the CA Daya Niwas keynote address. Thanks, sir. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. See you. Now let's go to the today's webinar topic, which is transforming the finance and accounts through RPA. The topic is of utmost importance in this digital age, and where there are a lot of pressures on CFOs and directors to reduce the operational cost. So I think though he is a CA, the speaker is a CA, but he is more seen as a techie guy. So he will be a role model for all of us. Despite being a CA, we can also become a techie guy. It's no more a, we can say fancy word to all of us. So I welcome CA Saurabh, who will lucidly explain how RPA can address such cost pressures, even though you are not an IT guy. So I'll just give a short write up on the Saurabh Goenka. Saurabh Goenka is a chartered accountant and a digital transformation professional with around 11 plus years of rich global experience in RPA solutioning, process transformation, process improvement, digital transformation, and strategy leadership. He has worked on key strategic initiatives for Fortune 500 organizations in designing and deploying their RPA digital transformation strategies, and he heads solutions and strategy for Mindmap Consulting, where he has designed, operated, and led the entire digital learning solutions business end to end with a key focus on designing the digital academy focused around analytics, RPA, and AI. He has worked with most of the leading DPM and consulting organizations as his clients in solutioning or scaling strategies for them, transforming the DNA of these organizations from a traditional modus operandi to a state of digital operations. In addition, he has worked with deploying their digital transformation strategies. He is also a prominent keynote speaker and a well-known subject matter expert who has spoken at multiple national and international conferences on digital transformation in finance and other domains. So without much ado, I would like to welcome CS Saurabh to take the control on the today's webinar topic. Over to you, CS Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Sai. I hope you are able to see me and hear me.
Yes, we can see you. And
Excellent.
audible too. Thanks.
Brilliant. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. If you can confirm that this is visible, then we are good to go.
Yes, very much.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sai, for inviting me here to speak today. And thank you so much and congratulations to the new chairman, Mr. Kaiser, and to Daya for your invigorating speech as always. And Sai, I really liked your comment when you said that, though he is a chartered accountant, he's seen more of as a techie. I think, yeah, that's a really wonderful thing to say. So guys, good morning to all of you. Thanks for being here at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And what I want to do today is I want to talk to you about one of the pillars of digital transformation, which is robotics process automation. I'm sure some of you might have heard about this. Some of you might not have heard about this. But the intention of today's session is for us to really understand that what this technology really is, and what is it that you can do with this technology. So how you as a chartered accountant, as a finance professional, can actually take this technology to your organizations, to your professional lives, and automate some of these processes. Great. So a little bit about myself. I think, Sai, thank you so much for the introduction. I've been in the whole digital transformation space for quite some time. I know it's a little uncanny to find chartered accountants who do a lot with technology, but I want to tell all of you guys here this today that it's really a myth when you feel that chartered accountants cannot really dabble with technology. This is something which used to be true in the past, because in the past technology was a really tough thing. It was not easy to work with technology, and that's because for you to learn any technology, it used to be a coding effort, right? So for instance, if you guys remember the days around 10 to 15 years back, everybody who was in finance, they wanted to learn a technology like an SAP. And then came the whole wave where everybody wanted to do analytics. And now you have this whole AI and RP and things like that. What has really changed, though, over this period of time is that technology has become much easier. And as I'm going to show you today in some of the examples of how RPA really works, you will realize that all you need to know, and this is what Daya also said, that in robotics process automation, the most important part is the process. So all you really need to understand is the process. And if you know the process well enough, you will be able to create that entire automation journey in a very, very seamless way. So I have helped multiple organizations in understanding if they are at a certain state, how do they build a roadmap to reach a digitally transformed state. There are multiple organizations we work with in Mindmap Consulting I've spoken at multiple different forums. I've done lots of conferences for ICI as well. And we've implemented more than 100 different types of use cases in analytics, artificial intelligence, RPA, so on and so forth. For the purpose of today's webinar, I'm going to first talk about what is this digital transformation. You know, we all keep hearing about digital, digital, digital. What does this really mean? How is it affecting everything around us? And specifically, how is it transforming finance? You know, what does it really mean for people like us? Then we're going to deep dive into robotics process automation as a technology and understand what is this technology? You know, how does it really work? I'm going to show you examples of some RPA bots in action when they are trying to automate processes. And then we're going to see how is it that you can select your first RPA project and how can you build your own roadmap to kind of work with an RPA project. Then, of course, we'll see a bot in action and understand specifically for the world of finance and accounting. What we've done is that we've done a lot of work with a lot of CA firms and several finance departments of various organizations in understanding what are the primary use cases where RPA is really successful. So we've created a kind of a heat map for that. I'm going to take you through some of those things, and then finally we'll close with some notes of what do we think is the finance of the future, and how can we really imagine the future of finance to kind of look like. Great. And guys, in this webinar, you are going to be muted throughout the whole process. What you should do though is I'm going to check the chat window every now and then to make sure that if you guys have any questions, we'll answer those questions dynamically. I'm going to pause every now and then. The moment you have a question, please pop that question into the chat window, and we'll find time to answer those questions. Great. So if you guys think this is a good agenda, let's move forward, right? So the very first thing which I usually like to talk about is a very bold statement which says, the world is changing and intelligence is leading that change. Now, think about this for a second. Has there been any point of time when the world has not changed? I think you will find that the world has been an entity which has constantly evolved during the various times and things like that. But what is different about the pace of change today is that pace of change has become radically massive. We don't live in those times when it took a caveman to discover fire. He maybe spent about, say, 1,000 to 10,000 years in doing that. And then, of course, it took maybe so much time for the first computer to be invented. But today, the pace at which technology is changing is massive. Now, this presents a threat as well as an opportunity, because with every threat comes an opportunity. And being chartered accountants, we know that we should invest where there is risk so that we get higher returns. So in the current times, and we'll see a lot of this as we move forward, there is a massive opportunity of tapping this wave. At the same time, if you are not updated with the kind of technology which is coming out there, then we soon might find ourselves in a place where you keep on listening to this all the time, that hey, bots have taken over jobs and employees are being downshot and things like that. So I think all of that is a little overhyped, and it's very simple. People who are not able to work with the pace of this change, they are not able to adopt to new systems and new processes. These are the guys who are taking an axe, right? So here's what we'll do. We'll kind of see a timeline of the world in terms of what has the pace of technological change and transformation been like. So for this, what we'll do is we'll kind of, let me move this bar upstairs. All right. So we're going to see a timeline of the world from the 1400s to, we'll predict as to what can happen in about 2050. And if you map the pace of technological change on this timeline, what you'll notice is that it's a steep curve like this. What is the meaning of this steep curve? It basically means that it took so much time for some technological change to happen, and then the pace of inventions really shot up, and the pace at which we are going right now is enormous, right? So if you remember, the three most important inventions which took place between the 1400s to the 1750 was the printing press, the telescope, and the steam engine. Let me ask you a simple question here. Before the 1400s, when there was no printing press, books were being written by hand, newspapers, every single newspaper used to be written by hand. In all of those scenarios, what happened was, since there was no printing press in place, everything used to be manual. The moment the printing press came into action, all that got taken over by the printing press. My question to you is very simple. If you have a printing press which is invented, will you still keep writing books by hand, or will you still write every single tabloid or newspaper by hand? The answer is no, right? Similarly, it took a lot of time to finally invent the steam engine, about, let's say, another 350 years. And same question, earlier, before the steam engine was invented, people used to ride horses when they used to go from point A to point B. After you have the steam engine, will you really ride on horses anymore? The answer is no. What I'm trying to tell you here is whether to adopt a technology, whether to adapt to a technological change or not, I don't think this is a question in itself. The question is, when do we predict the next technology to come upon us, and how do we make the most of it? At this point of time, those individuals who had know-how of the steam engine, those organizations which decided to invest in the business of creating locomotives and carriages, they did really well, right? So this entire period of 350 years, which took to create from the printing press to the steam engine, was the first phase of technological change, which is also known as Industry 1.0, right? We've all heard about this industrial revolution, and we keep hearing these buzzwords like Industry 4.0, Industry 3.0, so on and so forth. So this is what the Industry 1.0 looks like. After that, you have the light bulb and the telephone, which got invented in the next about, say, 100 odd years. So if you look at the pace of technological change, that's already sped forward. It took about 350 years for something like a steam engine, and then something as radical as electricity and the telephone, it took maybe another 100 years. And then in the next about 100 years, you had the car, you had the television, and you had the PC. Now, when you had the PC, I think this is the biggest a revolution which kind of took place, and that's what is called the electronics and the IT revolution, after which within the next less than 50 years, you had the internet, you had the entire software industry, you had the whole stuff about microprocessors, you had mobile phones, and from that point of onwards, what really happened is technology became really, really commoditized, right? And everybody had access to technology. And all of us know, for example, this webinar is not possible to do without software, without internet, without mobile phones, without PCs, without microprocessors. Can you imagine any aspect of your life today which does not stand disrupted by any of these technologies, right? So which kind of brings us to where we are right now. You have all of these different things where, people say that data is the new oil. Data, oil is not the most richest commodity in the world anymore. Data is the most amazing commodity. You have companies like Facebook and Google. You have analytics, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. Technology is as smart as a driverless car. And then finally, you have a concept called singularity. What is singularity? Singularity is a concept which says that there might come a point of time when bots can be at the same level of intelligence and consciousness as human beings. And we're kind of trying to scratch the surface there. Some of you must be aware, I think most of you will be aware about this, about Sophia, who got citizenship of Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, what a fantastic example of a bot. Did you ever kind of think about this in your lifetimes, that a bot will be given the citizenship of an advanced economy like the Saudi Arabia, right? So that's where it is heading. And this period of about 20 years, where you've had this growth and this transformation and this movement to technology, where you have, the internet companies, you have analytics, blockchain, augmented reality, automation, artificial intelligence, all of these things. This entire thing is known as Industry 4.0. So the reason I wanted to kind of bring this out is because when we talk about robotics process automation, RPA exists for a reason. And to understand that reason, you need to understand that where are we right now and how has this journey of transformation been like, right? So now that we know about this, let's stretch this out a little bit more and look at how business has really changed. So on the x-axis here, we're going to look at timelines from 1900s to 2050. And on the y-axis, we look at business process evolution. So as you move up the scale, you're going to hit lower cost and better efficiency, right? And what is the goal of every business? The goal of every business is, I want to make more profits. How do you make more profits? You make more profits by having access to bigger markets, by operating at a lower cost, by moving to better efficiency, so on and so forth. Now, in the 1900s, this is where, the large organizations were just kind of setting themselves up. They had their focus on core operations, and that is what their focus was. Then came the whole IT in around something like the 1950, and then organizations realized, hey, you know what? If I move my operations to an ERP system, if I create a sophisticated IT management framework, then this will mean lower cost, more efficiency, better productivity, so on and so forth. And let's do that. So when organizations move to IT, the reason they really did this was because they wanted to have access to better markets. They wanted to operate at a lower cost. They wanted to consolidate all the information together in one place. Nobody will need to write down bank account debit to cash account or something on a books of accounts, but you can actually do that using system. That is what happened in that phase. Then came globalization and the whole industry of business process management and business process outsourcing. When some companies in certain geographies realized that, hey, you know what? I have strategized my core operations. I have my IT fixed. But at the same time, if I run my operations from India or the Philippines or the South Africa, then in that case, I might end up running my operations at a fraction of a cost. And that is the whole BPO industry, right? If you look at the percentage of share of Indian exports from the IT/ITS segment, most of it comes from your BPO and KPO industry. And that has happened, right? So what these organizations then did is that they decided, you know what, I'm going to move some of these operations to a different geography where it can get executed at a fraction of a cost. And now, today, this has also matured, right? So for each of these phases, there is a maturity cycle. Maybe it took between 1950 to somewhere like 1980 for IT to really mature. It took between something like a 2000 to 2008, 2009, where the business process outsourcing industry was mature and no more productivity is possible. That is where these organizations said, you know what, we still need lower cost, we still need better efficiency, and hence we're going to use technology like artificial intelligence and other technologies to create automated cognitive and intelligent processes. Now, what does this mean? This means that just outsourcing work to another geography to save cost is not enough for me anymore. What I really need to do now is that I also need to automate processes using technologies like RPA, AI, analytics, so on and so forth. And just think about this. If there is a bot or a software program which can automatically look at your invoice, read data from that invoice, make entry into your accounting system, trigger an approval workflow, get the approval done, perform a two-way match or a three-way match, or however you want to validate the invoice, and say that the invoice is processed. And if this entire process is rule-based, don't you think we have sufficiently advanced technology available today which can do that job? And if the answer to that question in your mind is a yes, then don't you think that for doing that using a technology, it's going to process at a fraction of a cost, at a much lower cost than an actual human being doing it? That is where this is moving. So we want to deep dive a little bit more into this ecosystem of Industry 4.0, which creates automated, cognitive, and intelligent processes. And there are various different technologies with which this whole ecosystem is being built. I again just want to give you perspective that what are all these technologies, where are they kind of fitting in? So robotics process automation is actually at the helm of this technology, which the purpose of RPA is to mimic the work of a human user. Whatever a human user does within the confines of his computer screen, a bot can actually do that. And I'm going to show you examples of exactly how that happens. So how does a bot really do that and automate and move forward? Then again, you have technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence, where the idea is, the biggest differentiator between a human and a machine was that a human always learned from experience, whereas a machine kind of always learned from programming. Now, all of that is changing now. I don't know how many of you remember seeing this TV series in your early days. Like myself, I saw this TV series called Small Wonder. It used to come on the TV. And then there used to be a small walking robot, which used to be like a house assistant. And then if you ask the robot a question which the robot did not know about, the robot would say, hey, you know what, this is not in my programming, so I can't answer that. But that is changing now using a technology like called machine learning and artificial intelligence, by which you can actually build a system of learning where this machine learning and artificial intelligence bots can actually learn based on predefined patterns, and you can pretty much do anything with it. So all these examples of driverless cars, when you go to Amazon, you see product recommendations. When you go to your Gmail, you see relevant ads and things like that. All of this is because of technologies like this. And the intention for our today's webinar is not to kind of get into these technologies. We can do that at some other time. But I just wanted to give you kind of an overview to understand the whole ecosystem. Then blockchain, of course, I think most of you know about it. There already has been a lot of beautiful sensitization, which ICAI has also done on the blockchain front by conducting a lot of workshops. Then you have other technologies like the Internet of Things, augmented reality and virtual reality, so on and so forth. So this whole schematics of automated, cognitive, and intelligent processes, let's kind of dig into it a little bit more and contextualize all of this back to finance. So how is this transformation kind of affecting finance, right? So what are the expectations which the CFOs of today have from finance? I'm going to get into this, but before I do that, let me kind of quickly take a look in case somebody has asked any questions. And all right, no questions so far. So let me go back to the PPT. All right. So what are the different expectations that CFOs have from finance? And when I talk about this, I'm kind of giving you first-hand information based on my interaction with CIOs and CFOs in terms of what are the key challenges which they are facing. And I think, Sai, you beautifully mentioned this point when you were introducing this topic, that there is a huge operational pressure today for organizations to kind of lower down their operations costs and automate their processes. And we're seeing that all around, also especially in the wake of whole COVID-19, where I think what COVID-19 has really done is it has told organizations which were reluctant in adopting technology that, you know what, there's no way out. You can't really say that, is it a choice now? Because you have to operate in a virtual environment. You have to operate. Some of our customers in the US, they're saying that, you know what, we don't have people to process transactions. Can we do something where we can implement RP and things like that? And this is a synthesis of all of these trends which we've been seeing and specifically contextualized to finance. CFOs expect that there should be more than 90% automation of transactional finance and accounting, right? So what is transactional finance and accounting? Transactional finance and accounting is your basic bookkeeping transactions and that entire life cycle of procure to pay, order to cash, record to report. Some of these things which are extremely rule based, things like closing and reporting, things like invoice processing, things like reconciliation, something which is extremely rule based. People should not need to be doing this manually. There should be more than 90% automation of transactional finance and accounting. CFOs want more analytics and visual dashboards as compared to data. Nobody wants to see tables of information anymore. That is why you are seeing an emergence of new age analytics organizations and new age visualization companies. I'm sure all of you would have heard about tools like Power BI, Tableau, and there are so many more out there, which helps you in visualizing that data very effectively. And that's what CFOs really want. They say that, you know what, don't give me data. I want to see if I want to understand the financials of a specific customer or of a particular account. The moment I click on it on my cell phone, I should get all the information, all the trends and things like that. Now, this is a big trend. Earlier, book closing is something which took anywhere between 3 days to 7 days to 10 days to 15 days, depending on various organizations. And I'm sure I have lots of people attending this today who are from controllership, and you'll kind of agree to me with this. But you will be surprised to know that almost 60% of all the Fortune 500 companies have decided to implement RPA, and almost 2/3 of them are somewhere close to completing that implementation, where book closures will happen in as less as 2 days, or in some cases even 24 hours. So what essentially happens is that you have a schematics of bots which work with integrating the intercompany transactions, consolidating results, running reconciliations, getting sign-offs, doing the manual adjustment entries, doing cost allocations, and all of those things which lead to book closing. All of those things need to happen much, much faster is what the expectations which CFOs have. CFOs also want bulletproof compliance and filings, and I think Daya also beautifully mentioned that governance and compliance is a big theme. So you need to ensure that the whole compliance piece needs to happen very, very strong. The cost of non-compliance is very high today, and if you see the number of regulations which are coming in, they're on a rise. And if there's going to be more digital transactions, and think about organizations moving to platforms like blockchain, or some of these things are still highly unregulated, and there'll be lots and lots of security standards which will come in place. So for these things, when they come in place, the cost of actually doing it wrong is going to be very, very high. So your compliance and return filing on time and all these things can actually be completely taken over by bots. Automated and cloud integrated reporting systems. Nobody wants to look at push email based reports anymore. People want to understand that, hey, how can I take a look at automated reporting, and how can I have cloud based reporting? I don't want to have somebody send me data. Analytics and AI driven audit mechanisms. Now, this is a big one. I mean, almost all the big four organizations are investing very heavily into creating their AI driven audit mechanisms. And I know lots of organizations have also integrated AI technologies into their own internal audit. And the other big theme, and I also wrote about this in the Chartered Accountant magazine, I think some 5 or 6 months back. I will share a copy of the article in case you want. The biggest trend is that people are saying, CFOs are saying, you know what, we don't want random sampling anymore. If somebody wants to hide something, they will hide it in a place where you're likely not wanting to see it. Hence, no more random sampling. We want the entire data to be very crisply and beautifully analyzed. And because of that, most people are saying that, no more random sampling, and we want to move ahead with the entire analytics of the whole piece, which is only possible if you do it using technology. Then again, there's a theme of reporting integration with smart assistants. I've seen examples where you have chatbots built, and then CFOs want to say, hey Siri, can you tell me the status of my book closing report? Or hey Siri, can you tell me how much margin we made on that account last year? And all of those things are also a part of this automated cognitive and intelligent processes. All right, so what does this mean? This means that the finance professional of the future will have no choice but to be extremely well versed with digital technologies to meet these needs. And I think that's where DAB is also doing a wonderful job, and where we are all here together to understand some of those pieces. Great. So now that we know all this, I know the question in your mind, hey, I'm a finance guy. This sounds too much technology. How am I going to handle this much technology? And yeah, I know it's a very, very viable question. And I'm sure most of you are thinking, yeah, what do you mean to say that all this technology is going to come and we're going to become redundant? I'm a finance guy. I know how to close books of accounts. I know how to file returns. I know how to do my transaction advisory, but this is too much technology. Now, that is where a technology like RPA is kind of revolutionary. It's a technology which simplifies and enables automation using predefined templates, workflows, and rules. Now, remember what I said earlier. Technology has become really, really accessible today, right? And since technology is like really accessible today, it's because of that you don't really have to do a lot of coding. You need to, for example, tell a bot that, hey, Mr. Bot, please monitor this folder to see if there are any incoming invoices. The bot will say, okay, I'll monitor it. And then when invoices come in, you know what? In an invoice, the components are something like a PO number, a vendor name, quantity, amount, tax, etc. So please look at this invoice pattern, extract that. And you don't have to write any code for that. The bot is going to kind of automatically take care of that. What is important though is that you need to tell the bot exactly how to kind of make this entire thing happen. So RPA is considered as one of the easiest, quickest, and the most cost-effective technologies to automate the world of finance and accounting. You can work with blockchain, you can work with AI, you can work with the other technologies, but there is a fairly steep learning curve. But when it comes to RPA, I have personally worked with several chartered accountants and people of the finance fraternity, and we've seen cases where in less than about a month's time or 2 months' time, they're able to create their proof of concepts and they're able to create their own bots and kind of put it out there. So enough talking. Now what we'll do is I'm going to show you an RPA bot in action. So this is a video. I want to play this video, and I want you guys to see what an RPA bot really looks like. And guys, as I'm going through this, please do drop in your questions at any point of time. Don't lose track of your questions. If there are some questions which I cannot answer today, I will get back to you with an answer at a later point of time as well, right? So let's see what an RPA bot really looks like. I'm going to play this video, and I hope you guys will be able to hear. So here it goes.
Moving on, robots can work with multiple applications simultaneously. In the next example,
can somebody confirm if you're able to hear the audio as well?
Yes, Saurabh, we are able to hear.
Perfect. Let's play on.
Our robot will work with 7 applications at once: Excel, Word, PDF, email, SAP, terminals, and Salesforce. The Excel file contains the name, email, SAP number, and an individual code for each person. The robot will first read this data, then open the terminal, input each person's code, and get all the data from the terminal. The emails from the CSV will be input into Salesforce to find every employee, and then the expense data from the terminal will be added into the expense row. After this, the robot will create a Word document from a template with a status report for each person. The Word file will then be converted to PDF and sent as an email attachment. Finally, the robot will find the employee's position in SAP, and with all of the above data, will populate the Excel file used in the beginning. Now, let's start the robot and explain the process in more detail. The robot will start by opening the terminal, Salesforce, and SAP, and by logging into all 3 systems, preparing all the applications it will work with. It will browse the pages of the terminal and find the ID of the first employee. Then identify the same person in Salesforce based on their email address. The expenses are then added in Expense IT, the Word template filled in, converted to PDF, and sent as an email attachment. The robot then finds the position of the person in SAP, then moves on to the second person, looking for the ID in the terminal. After collecting the data, the robot sees that Salesforce does not display an account for Joan, so it creates one. After doing this, it fills the expenses on Joan's account, creates the Word document, converts it to PDF, and sends it as an email attachment. Then the robot moves on to the third person, and so on. Fast forwarding, we can see that all the data is completed in the Excel file for each person, and the emails for each person are sent with a PDF attachment. Next, let's talk about virtual desktop automation.
Okay, let's move back. So that kind of helped you visualize that what a bot really looks like. Now, just ask yourself this question. Now, here essentially what was happening. This is a typical day in the work life of lots of associates and people who do data entry jobs and people who do accounting and a lot of other processes where you have to validate data across multiple applications and populate them across multiple applications, copy from one place, paste at the other place, so on and so forth. And I'm sure a lot of you could actually visualize that, yeah, this is some part of this work is something which all of us also kind of do. Now here, the bot actually works like a human user. So what is an RPA bot? An RPA bot, first of all, has got nothing to do with a physical bot. An RPA bot is a software virtual bot which you can create yourself with very little or no investment, and I'm going to come to that at a later point of time, where essentially here the bot opened up all of these multiple applications at the same time, and it was able to work with all of those various applications using a certain predefined logic. And by the end of it, it also was able to send emails. So, if you think about this, what can bots do? Bots can consolidate Excel files, bots can read your emails, send emails, bots can do your entire end-to-end accounting, bots can scrape data from the internet and create research reports for you, bots can automate your entire marketing. There's a lot of different things which these RPA bots can kind of do, and it's really very exciting. Now, here is where the fun comes in. What if I told you that the example of the bot which you just saw, you can create this yourself by spending, let's say, about 35 to 40 hours or maybe 50 hours of learning, all free of cost. And once you learned how to use a particular RPA tool, so you build RPA bots using various RPA tools, and I'm going to talk about what these tools are in some point of time. But what if I told you that the bot which you just saw, it takes only maybe 1 or 2 days of programming efforts to build that bot? Now, do you think that this is a revolutionary technology or not? Because I'm sure that all of us have so much manual tasks which we do in controllership, in FP&A, in reporting, in filing, in so many different functions, even sending reports to people, right? Every month, I'm sure a lot of us are sending the same reports over and over again to the same distribution list. Why can't you automate that yourself using a bot? So these are some examples, and I just wanted to show that video to you to kind of help you visualize that what does an RPA bot look like. I'm again going to quickly pause here and see if you guys have put in any questions. All right. How do we get the RPA and other tech skills? Does any certification really help? This is asked by Ram Prasad. Ram Prasad, thank you so much for this question. Yes, you can. So there are multiple different tools available, and with these multiple tools, there are various types of certifications available as well. The two most prominent tools today in the market, and you can note this down, and I will also be sharing this in the subsequent slides, is a tool called UiPath, and then there's a tool called Automation Anywhere. And both of these tools have certifications associated with them. So they have their own online academies where you can go and learn, and I can share links for you. And yes, this certification really helps you in getting started. Not just this, all the RPA platforms have a free community edition software which you can actually download and use and create your bots yourself. So if you're doing it for testing, for non-commercial purposes, you can use the community edition to do with it. I hope that kind of answers your question. We have the new question from the Vice Chairman of the Bangkok chapter of ICAI, who asks, can you inform more about RPA in terms of financial savings and productivity improvement? From Mr. Basant Kumar Duggar. I think Mr. Basant Kumar Duggar, fantastic question. There is a whole section which I've kind of dedicated to, how can you really do the ROI piece of RPA? How do you quantify the benefits? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but just in a nutshell, there are 3 different benefits. One, you are close to 100% accuracy because bots are not going to make mistakes when you define a logic. So you are close to 100% accuracy. Second, you have more than 70 to 80% improvement in turnaround times and average handling times. If earlier your agent took about, say, 25 minutes to process a transaction end to end, a bot can possibly do it in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. In terms of financial savings, typically what we have seen is organizations save anywhere between 35% to 65% of their operating cost. And whatever investment you make on RPA, you are able to recover that in a period of 3 to 4 months. But that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit more in the subsequent slides about the pricing model, how are RPA tools priced, what are the business benefits, how to quantify them, so on and so forth. Thank you for the question. Praneeth Kumar L asked, does adopting this technology need to learn some technical subjects? Well, Praneeth, you don't really need to immerse yourself with a lot of technical different areas. But what you need to understand is, where do I get started? Which tools can I work with? How do I build logic and things like that? In fact, I'm going to also share with you a workflow of what does an RPA project look like. If you want to start your RPA project, what is the whole process? And I can help you with documents, templates, frameworks. I'm going to leave my email address. Just drop me a note and I'm going to help you with all these things. SK Joshi asked, what is the full form of RPA? RPA is Robotics Process Automation. Girish asked, what type of items can be automated using RPA in a Tally software? Beautiful question, Girish. So with Tally, there are lots and lots of use cases, right? You can actually automate reconciliations. You can automate extracting reports. You can automate entry of documents. In fact, very recently, I also came across use cases, Girish, where you can create something called a chatbot in WhatsApp, which integrates with Tally using RPA. So essentially, here's what's happening. Let's say that you are doing accounting for about 10 or 12 customers, right? And you're doing accounting for them as your clients in Tally. You have access to the Tally systems. Now, every time your customer wants to know some information, he has to call you or reach out to you. You can create a WhatsApp business account where the customer pops in a question that, hey, Girish, can you tell me what are the top 5 biggest transactions in my bank account which happened in the last month? Or, hey, can you tell me if, my accounts are reconciled, or any question? And then for each of those predefined questions, the WhatsApp will trigger a bot somewhere on a cloud server, which is going to talk to Tally, extract all the information, and give it back to your client in real time. So your client types a question, in less than 10 to 15 seconds, he actually has that answer. So there are lots and lots of use cases, Girish, when it comes to Tally. Is RPA supported with all applications? Asked by Himanshu. Himanshu, beautiful question. Thanks for asking that. Essentially, there are 3 different categories of automation, right? And this will help you understand. Whatever falls in that category can be automated. The first category is web application automation. So anything to do with any web application can be automated. So for example, if today I go on, say, Amazon, and if I want to create a bot which types in books, and then it gives me a list of, give me the list of the top 50 books or top 100 books along with the name, their cost, and all those things, I can do that using bots. And similarly, any web-based applications can be completely automated using RPA. It works completely within any Windows or any Unix-based system. So any application in the Windows framework, any given application, it can automate. The beauty is this, Himanshu, that RPA does not rely on API integrations, right? You must have heard about this terminology called API, where it's a back-end integration with the software. Here, RPA uses a technology called computer vision, where it is able to see the applications, move the mouse, give the keystrokes, just like a normal user would, and hence it can work with almost all kinds of applications. That being said, there is also something called a mainframe or a backend RPA, where it can also kind of work in the backend with new applications open. Himanshu also asked, SAP, Excel, Word, Tally, Busy, Oracle, in-house ERP. Yes, my dear friend Himanshu, you can work with RPA with all of these things. In fact, some examples of organizations which implement RPA is where, for example, if you look at SAP, right? SAP has a lot of automation built in, right? Similarly, for Oracle, EBS, you have a lot of automation built in. There are lots of plugins available. But for some legacy applications, some of the banks, some of the biggest banks, they use legacy applications which don't have these modern plugins available. So for these legacy applications and all your in-house built ERP, specifically Himanshu, you can kind of use RPA to work with them. Automation anywhere in UiPath, what is the license fees is what Rajesh has asked. So good question, Rajesh. As I mentioned earlier, these two are the primary tools for RPA. Now, before you get into license fees, there are 2 types of bots. And there's a question by Fayaz Beg who asked that, is any human intervention required when you do RPA? And both of these questions for Fayaz and Rajesh will answer together. So the question is, so before you understand this, essentially there are 2 types of bots. There is a bot which is called an attended bot, and there is a bot which is known as an unattended bot, right? So an attended bot is a bot which works alongside a human user, right? So a human user is sitting on a system. He triggers a bot. The bot does most of the manual transaction. Then it asks a human that, you know what, I can't proceed beyond this point. So for example, you're doing invoice processing automation, and now the bot is asking that, hey, what is the GL code where I put this? For example, in case you've not defined it. Then this is an example of an attended automation, which is far cheaper. The other form of automation is known as an unattended automation. And this is an automation where you do not need a human user at all at any point of time. So example which I gave you where your tally is integrating with WhatsApp and your automation scenario, that is an example of an unattended automation. An unattended bot is usually much more expensive as compared to an attended bot, right? Now coming to the cost, right? So that answers the question, is human intervention required? Fayaz, depends on you. If you want to define a process which is completely free of human dependence, you can do that. If you want to create attended bots, you can do that as well. Now, how is it priced? The typical license per cost, and I'm not going to talk specifically to Automation Anywhere and UiPath. I'm going to give you a broader range because there are more RPA tools out there as well. The typical license cost for an attended bot is anywhere from the range of $1,200 per bot per annum to the range of say $3,000 or $4,000 per bot per annum, right? Which basically means that it's going to cost somewhere around 75,000 to 80,000 rupees per bot per annum. So for an attended bot, an unattended bot starts from $5,000, goes up to $8,000 to $9,000 per bot per annum. And one bot can typically do the work of about 3.5 full-time employees. Okay, so I think that answers most of these questions. Do we have any ready-made RPA bots for CA firms in India? There are lots of them. This is asked from CA Kutalingam. Please reach out. We can give you answers. What are the areas that an RPA can be used by chartered accountant firm for operations? Ravi, thanks for the question. Lots and lots of different areas. You can automate reporting. You can automate report filing. You can automate marketing. You can create bots to automate your social media reach. You can consolidate reports. You can fetch reports from the GST portal or whatever. So pretty much in your entire range of services, and this is a global advice to anybody who thinks that how should I do RPA? The answer is very, very simple. Try to imagine what part of your consulting work or regular business process work you can do with automation, and all of that, if you can imagine it, it's possible today. So there are lots of examples. Fayaz Bag, again, bot will work on coding and logic, and if you don't have software like SAP or ERP, how does it work small business? Fayaz, it works with absolutely anything. As I said, with Tally, with Excel, with WhatsApp, even with the Zoho window, you can do RPA anywhere. Can mobile applications be accessed using RPA to activate information collection? Absolutely, Harisha. Yes, it can be done. You can integrate with APIs as well, and there are multiple different ways of doing it. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, there is an interoperability between mobile applications, website applications, desktop applications. Rajesh said, I've done research on RPA and finance functions can be automated, but however practical, I need to implement and learn for technical functionality. Please guide for any certifications. Rajesh, I'm going to leave my information. Send me a note. I'll help you out. Ravi asked, has ICI any service provider created for pre-built RPA programs for audit? I'm not the right person to answer this. So if anybody from ICI wants to answer this, please feel free. And Ravi, in case I find that answer out later, I'll talk to Daya and the others. If I have an answer, I'll reach back to you. Then we have Gyanesh asking reconciliation between two organizations may require data to be available and presented into a single format. How can RPA do this in different formats? RPA is digitizing your data, Rajesh, right? So, sorry, Gyanesh. So RPA is digitizing your data. It is going to extract the relevant data from the relevant systems, and it can create an absolutely new format. So you can define that, look, this is my target format. And if this is my target format, then this is my base format A, this is my base format B. These are the fields you should extract and kind of put it there. So all of that is absolutely possible. Can RPA be looked as an advanced Excel macro that can run across various tools? Harisha, thank you so much for saying that. That's a beautiful way to visualize RPA. Yes, it is kind of a macro on steroids. A lot of people call RPA a macro on steroids. It's kind of an evolution of macros, but it is much more than that. For macros, you have to work with Visual Basic scripting. Here, you don't need to do Visual Basic scripts at all. It's all drag and drop. It's all user interface based. Again, another question related to macros, how to use RPA in bank audit. You can have multiple case scenarios. Pandurang, we can speak separately on that. I can help you with some use cases. Premchand asked, what about CAPTCHA codes in dealing with web applications? Beautiful. Excellent question. CAPTCHA codes are not supposed to be navigated using RPA. That's the reason why CAPTCHA codes are there. So, there are some applications and web-based applications which are there specifying that, I don't want any bots running around here. Because, see, understand this. Okay, why do CAPTCHA codes exist in the first place? Why does the website have a problem in case a bot is accessing it? Because you can have hacking done via this while there's a bot constantly pinging that server and extracting information, which will slow down and conserve and, use up the entire bandwidth. So as per the security frameworks, we are not supposed to do CAPTCHA code in bots. When auditee is using bots, does it make auditors' job easy or otherwise? Good question. So there is, not just, so first of all, it makes your job easy in case the bots are configured strong enough to maintain audit trail and documentation. But the complex part is you might need to get inside and investigate the way the bots are actually functioning. You might need to look at that bot. What if your auditee has built a bot to purposefully conceal certain transactions? So for example, if it is building a bot for reporting, it goes into the books of accounts, it extracts all the information, it has a predefined logic of identifying suspicious transactions, which it rules out. So in that case, you need to audit the bot of your auditee. So in that case, that's actually going to be a big area. There is a need currently of coming out with standards and accounting standards on how do you audit digital systems. So that's going to be a big area. Himanshu asked if you worked on Alteryx. What are your thoughts? I think Alteryx is a good platform. Yes, I've done a little bit of work with Alteryx. It's a good platform for analytics process automation, but it has its limitations. It works with very predefined scenarios. Please tell me some ideas of how to use RPA and bots in auditing. Dwarkanath, I've written a paper on this. I'm going to send you a copy of this. Drop me a note, please. Ram Prasad asked, will RPA be able to work when the transaction volumes are huge, such as insurance, e-commerce, and financial industries? Ram Prasad, the best use case for RPA is to use where there is very, very high volumes. I'm going to give you examples. We've actually implemented RPA for a US-based organization where they process almost about 40 to 45,000 invoices in a year. It's the best case scenario where the transaction volumes are very high. That's where you can get the best ROI. What's the maturity level of organizations implementing RPAs? Beautiful question, right? Currently, as of now, the organizations which are implementing RPA, they are fairly mature in their digital journey. However, the statement which I made right now would have been valid, let's say, about 6 to 9 months down the line earlier. Today, especially after COVID-19, in the past couple of months, we've seen lots and lots of examples of people who've started kind of playing with it. Premchand said, I've worked with Kofax, would like to know your views that compare to other key players and products. So Premchand, I don't know if you're talking about Kofax Capture or Kofax MarkView, which are intelligent document processing engines, or if you're talking about Kofax RPA. When you talk about Kofax MarkView and Kofax Capture, they are one of the best tools in the industry for document processing. However, when you talk about Kofax RPA, then Kofax RPA is not that great, in my personal opinion. It's not that scalable. Scalability is a big challenge. So automation anyway, UiPath are far better off. Then Fayaz again asked, will the cost of bot differ on organization size and transaction size? Yes. So the question is, will I need to implement a single bot or multiple bots? So you might need to implement multiple bots in case there's a lot of volume. And bots are priced per bot. So, if you are running a single bot, which can take care of, say, 10 different types of transactions, you don't need to pay for additional bots. So the way you design your bots is also very important. You need to make your bots very agile, right? So it doesn't depend on organization size really. The pricing is standard. Again, there's a lot of negotiation you do with the RPA vendors. Transaction size, definitely. Will bot make system audit more stringent for organization? This is going to happen in the future, in the very near future, where these things are going to be investigated. Can RPA be designed for stock trading platforms? Mr. Fayaz, yes, absolutely. In fact, I attempted to build an RPA bot for leveraging arbitrage opportunities for trading cryptocurrencies. So we can talk about that offline. I know cryptocurrency isn't really a very hot topic in most of the cases. Himanshu has a use case. I want to match vendor bank details with vendor database or any table in AP process, but invoice format of all vendors are not the same. Is it possible? Yes. The answer is, how many different invoice formats do you have? You have these tools, and you may take down these names called Abby, ABBY. Abby is one of the smartest engines which works with UiPath as well, which has predefined lots and lots of invoice templates. There's a 90% chance it can take care of all the pieces. Premchand asked, sir, what if the web page is updated subsequently after configuring the robot? Do I need to reconfigure? Beautiful question, Premchand. Yes. Every time the user interface changes, you need to reconfigure your bot. So some websites actually use that methodology of changing it. However, changing your bot is as simple as just telling that, in my web page, if there are these elements, these two elements have only changed, and you can go to your bot. It will not take you more than 10 minutes to actually modify your bot. So guys, thank you so much for all of your questions. As of now, I've kind of answered all the questions which came in. This shows that you guys are really hooked in and you guys are understanding this session. I'm going to continue with my slides because there's a lot I want to cover. And then once again, I'll take a pause at some point of time and come back to the questions. Great. So I think most of us understand what RPA is by now. Just like you had an industrialization phase where industrial robots revolutionized the way we manufacture and do things. Similarly, RPA bots automate current tasks as if a real person was doing this across applications and systems, right? And this basically means that just like you had an industrial revolution with robots earlier, there's a very high possibility you might have a software revolution with bots, and that is what we are seeing right now. Now, here are some myths about RPA, again, RPA 101, and I want to kind of make sure that we all are on the same page with this. All of these bots are virtual bots, and they are not physical robots. That's one. The second myth is that people feel that RPA is only for high volume operations. The answer is no. RPA is not just for high volume operations. RPA can also be for situations where you can't afford to go wrong. The cost of going wrong is very high. For critical transactions, for cases where you need to be really fast in, let's say, you're trying to update your details in an RFP submission, or any of those time-sensitive cases, there RPA is really important. RPA, people think, is a very large deal. It's a large system integration process. And people feel like this because I remember when organizations were implementing things like SAP, you have to buy servers, you have to create server rooms, you have to get migration done, 2 month, 3 month, 2 year, 3 year long effort. An RPA tool is as small as a 50 megabyte executable file, which you can download from the internet right now, and you can start working with it. So it's very simple and nimble. It works together with humans. It does not replace humans, right? So guys, see, here's what it is. There's a big question that, is RPA going to take away my job? And let me be, I don't want to give you a false answer. See, just like the moment you had a printing press, you don't print by hand anymore. The moment you had a steam engine, you don't ride on horses anymore. If you have intelligent automation today, you will not employ humans to do dumb tasks which are repetitive. But you need a lot of talent to actually create these workflows, right? And there are lots of value-added tasks which people will do. So in my view, and in my customers as well, I was working with one of these customers. It's a UK-based utilities organization. And when we wanted to implement RPA with their finance and accounting department, they said that, you are setting us up for our jobs to be taken away and all that stuff. But after we actually did RPA, we found that the number of people in that department had actually increased. and the department had really scaled up to take on more and more and more as the organization kind of scaled up, and their processes just became more intelligent. So it's a bad myth saying that people have to be fired. That is not the reason for RPA. Yes, RPA is also a business continuity plan where in case you don't have people, it can kind of take over that piece. Hence, it increases the possibilities of performing value-added work. And what is most important is that RPA can self-fund itself in as less as 3 months, right? So whatever investment you make in RPA, you make that investment only if you feel the return is going to be more than what I invested. And in this case, the ROI can typically, we've seen in implementations, even the large implementations, it can come back in about 3 to 4 months, right? So what are the broad benefits? It reduces the human efforts by between 20% to 50%. It is faster by more than 2 times. It is non-intrusive, which means that it doesn't really need to plug in and integrate very, very strongly with all of your IT applications. It is not a large IT systems effort. It's really cheaper as compared to other technologies. For example, if you have to build something on artificial intelligence and machine learning, you need a lot of data to create those models. And by the way, today, you have things like IQ bots. So IQ bots, IQ bot is a product by Automation Anywhere. And I'm actually going to show you an example of how IQ bot kind of works. And it combines machine learning and artificial intelligence with RPA in a pre-built format, right? So you don't even have to program that bot. So by that perspective, RPA is significantly cheaper than some of the other technologies. RPA is accurate as it is completely rule-based. It reduces OPEX by about 20%. Now, this is an old slide actually. Recently, we've seen OPEX reduction by about 35 to 65% as well. The ROI can be as less as 3 months, but you will definitely get an ROI in less than 1 year. So you can recover your investments much, much faster. Here is a good question, right? I think all of you guys are wondering that, what? Great, right? So great technology. I'm kind of sold. We feel that maybe we should start thinking about RPA. And what processes should I automate, right? And some of you also asked this question that, hey, what processes should I really automate? So here's a guide to choose the processes which are a best fit for the automation. And guys, please remember, I'm going to share a copy of this deck for you guys to have it with you and refer back to it. So any process which is highly manual and repetitive, best candidates because, it's an easy win. A human will take, let's say, 10 or 15 minutes to process it. A bot will do it in a minute. Processes which are rule-based, do this, and if this is true, then do that. So whatever follows an if, then else logic or a defined workflow, they are the best candidates. Processes with a low exception rate. So what is an exception, right? And this is really important in RPA. And most of the RPA implementations actually fail because people don't map out these exceptions very, very strongly. So for cases where there are lesser chances of a deviation coming into the whole schematics, those processes you should take. So for example, let's say that you are building an RPA for invoice processing. Okay, we'll stick to the invoice processing example so that it's common throughout. And in your organization right now, you have say 25 different major vendors which account for 80 to 90% of your invoices. And maybe you have an EDI system or some other systems where, let's say, 40 to 50 different types of invoices, which encounter for 90% of your cases. So you build an RPA for all of them. Now here you have a low exception rate. What if there's a possibility all of that can really change? And your EDI system is upgrading or some of those things are happening where exceptions are higher. So in that case, that's not really a good process to automate. Processes with standard readable electronic input type. Now, OCR is a really important piece in RPA because in most of the scenarios, you need to be reading data from documents, digitizing it. So when your documents are of standard readable electronic input type, so more PDF documents, even scanned documents will work well with OCR. There are lots of OCR engines. I gave an example of Abby, then there is Tesseract, there is Google Vision, then even Kofax Capture is one of the OCR tools. So all of these OCR tools kind of integrate. If you have a scenario where you have handwritten invoices with high volumes, again, please go ahead and do it. It'll have good ROI. If you have cases with changeable processing method or system change. So for example, you're currently using SAP ECC as your ERP system. and you want to move to SAP S4 HANA, why do you want to implement RPA now? Because if your system is going to change, you would rather wait out that change. So in case your system is going to change, or if your processing format is supposed to change, wait it out, find a stable process so that you don't need to change your RPA code a little too much. Cases where you have automation savings in full-time efforts, where you can say that, you know what, I can save the efforts being spent on this by so many people, it's the best candidate. Let's say that if you're a small CA firm, you have say about 25 people right now, or say 10 people right now, and your average salary cost is about 7 to 8 lakh per person. And if you can build a bot to automate the job of 2 or 3 people, that's a good case, right? So wherever you have higher automation savings, it's going to justify your case. Wherever you have mature and stable processes where you understand those processes very well, very, very good examples of cases where you can automate using RPA. All right. So what are the different RPA tools which are out there, right? And this is a grid which tells you, according to one of my favorite research organizations, HFS, that what are the top 10 different RPA tools when it comes to various categories, right? So there are 2 categories: execution, innovation, and then finally a voice of the customer, right? So you have various tools out here. Automation Anywhere, UiPath, and Blue Prism are the 3 most important tools. These are the, if between these 3, they have about 85 to 90% of the market share. Currently today, UiPath and Automation Anywhere are, very neck to neck. In fact, I don't know if you're aware, but UiPath is one of the fastest growing enterprise organizations in the history of the world. They got like a huge year-on-year growth with this whole RPA boom. And there are lots of smaller organizations coming in. So for example, there's an organization called IntelliBot. I work very closely with them. There's an organization called Jiffy AI. There's another organization called Softomotive here. Softomotive recently got acquired by Microsoft. Softomotive, guys, is one of the cheapest, the most cost-effective RPA solutions out there, which can work very well for you. IntelliBot is also a very good tool. It's very cost-effective. So this is a good reference point, which you can also recommend to your organizations to explain that what are the different RPA tools. Cryon Systems, again, a great tool. It's a very, very good tool. Cryon and Automation Anywhere actually have something called a process discovery bot, okay? That's really very cool. So what it does is it sits on your system, it observes what you're doing, and it recommends and tells you that, you know what, this is the kind of RPA which you should be doing. And if you click a button, it downloads that bot to do that entire thing for you, right? So that thing is known as process discovery and automation of RPA, automation of automation. So, we are getting into all of that weird world right now. So these are all of the different types of RPA tools which are out there. Again, Kofax is there, Antworks is there, there is NICE, there is Pegasystems, there is Kofax, there is WorkFusion. So there's not a whole lot, there are about 10 to 15 of them which are really prominent, but between Automation Anywhere, UiPath, and Blue Prism, these are the 3 best ones. In case you guys want to learn RPA, Automation Anywhere and UiPath actually have very, very beautifully laid out online academies. You can go ahead and do that. I'll kind of share links with people who are interested. So that's what the different tools look like. Now, how do you really do an RPA deployment? I just want to touch on this basic thing. It's a really a complex process, and I can give you a whole roadmap, but I just want to touch upon it right now. The first thing is to identify the business process, right? So that identification of business process kind of again goes back to this matrix that, ask and create a matrix for you. For this process, is it manual? Is it repetitive? Is it rule-based? How many exceptions does it have? So you have various frameworks. And if you are interested, I can probably share a couple of frameworks with you, where in an Excel spreadsheet, you ask a number of questions to a process and you identify that, okay, these are the 10 or 12 different processes which can be automated. Then you select the transactions to be automated within them. Then you say that, if these are the 12 processes, I don't want to automate everything. I will select 4 or 5. Then you evaluate the RPA impact, which basically means if I do RPA here, is it going to impact any of my other systems? Is it going to really give me a return on investment? What is the financial impact? One of the biggest reasons, again, why RPA implementations fail is because of stakeholder buy-in. You have to do a really good job at creating your story of why is it that you want to implement RPA, and you want to get a very, very strong buy-in from your customers and stakeholders. So you have to evaluate that RPA impact. Then comes mapping, where you create a process design mapping using a functional level 3 process map. I'm going to show you an example of what this process map looks like. Basically, if you have a process, you divide it into processes and sub-processes and specify that at a sub-process level, what is the potential of RPA, right? And then again, you create your test scripts and test plan, and you kind of do, this is the place which is the actual development piece. You develop your RPA solution and you roll it out. This entire life cycle, in my view, takes anywhere between 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, right? So it takes maybe 2-3 weeks to identify, select, and evaluate. It takes another 5 to 6 weeks to map and test. And then in the final testing and rollout, it takes maybe another 2 weeks. So within a period of 10 to 12 weeks, you can have an RPA solution identified, tested, and ready for rollout, okay? So now we want to contextualize this a little bit more to F&A, and a lot of people have also asked that if I am doing auditing, what should I automate? So what processes should I automate within RPA? And this is a map which we have created, which we call the mind map, finance and accounting opportunities heat map. We've segregated the F&A processes into two parts: transactional F&A processes and specialist corporate finance roles. Within transactional F&A processes, you have 3 streams of actions: procure to pay, order to cash, and record to report. And in the specialist corporate finance roles, you have FP&A, treasury, taxation or legal, and audit. And for each one of them, if you create processes and define them that, hey, whatever is a high automation potential within these processes, that's a green. Whatever is a low automation potential, that's a red. And whatever is in between is one of the blues. Then we've created something known as a heat map. And I'm going to give you a copy of this heat map. Please feel free to use it in your discovery process. And it's a good place to also kind of identify that what are good opportunities if you want to recommend to your organizations. We've created this heat map based on the work which we've done for our customers and where we feel that customers are really investing. So within procure to pay, if you break down that entire thing into receiving invoice, scanning and indexing, invoice processing, invoice approval, payments run, and vendor help desk, apart from invoice approval, which you don't want to automate because you want somebody to be looking at those invoices and approving it, everything else has pretty much very good automation potential. Scanning and indexing and invoice processing actually are one of the best use cases, especially invoice processing. Most organizations actually start their RPA work with the whole invoice processing piece. That is where they kind of pretty much start. Then for order to cash, you have custom master setup, order management, invoice management, collections, reductions, recovery, customer help desk. So again, lots of use cases for each one of these segments. If you just search online or if you need any assistance with it, you can write to me. I can give you examples of how RPA is done in each one of these areas. For record to report, anything which is accounting, all your closing and reporting, all your reconciliations, all your reporting management are very, very high automation potentials. Even intercompany transactions management, it just needs an approval layer. Apart from that, you can automate the whole piece of it. Now, moving on to the specialist corporate finance roles within FP&A, MIS reporting, one of the best use cases of RPA, where you pretty much have a predefined report. You know, how do I create this RPA report? You just need to do that entire logic and flow, and you can do that automation. Variance analysis, financial forecasting, excellent use cases. Planning and budgeting and financial forecasting are also very good use cases. In fact, if you can actually create a revenue forecast system combining analytics and RPA. That can be a beautiful use case for lots of organizations. For treasury, cash management, and forex risk management, you can't really do much. You have to keep it manual. Bank account management, bank account reconciliations, all of that can be automated. Hedging can be automated to a great extent. You can create logic and hedging based on that. For taxation, all your filing requirements can be automated. Similarly, in auditing, all your data collection, querying of systems, vouching and verifications, all of these things can be automated. Now, out of all of these processes, areas which we are currently seeing to be in a lot of demand across the industry, I've kind of marked that with a star. So invoice processing, invoice management, closing and reporting, reconciliations and MIS reporting. These are some of the areas which most organizations are trying their best to implement RPA and kind of automate with that. Now, I want to give you an example of business benefits. I remember I think the chairman of the Bangkok branch and some other gentleman who asked the question of, how do you really articulate the benefits? And this is an actual case study of one of the implementations we did for our customers. Now, for this customer, the current state was they were processing about 36,000 invoices manually in a year. To do this, they had a team size of a certain number of people where they were spending about $600,000, which led to an actual approximate spend per invoice of about $17.50. We implemented RPA by implementing touchless accounts payable processing there to ensure that you have accurate time payments, and they're also able to get early payment discounts. Now, when we implemented this RPA, the cost of this RPA implementation over a 3-year period, if you average it out, the actual approximate cost of the invoice came down from $17 to about $4, right? So this cost includes the cost of the entire implementation as well as the cost of their finance team, where some people are still maintaining it, programming it for new invoices and things like that. That's a 70% reduction in invoice processing time and about a 70 to 75% improvement in financial ROI, right? How did we do this? We had 3 different bots which we implemented. One was the invoice data extraction bot. So what this bot did is it integrated with all the various different sources of invoices. They received via emails. They have an EDI application. They had some Unix box kind of an application with some vendor system. And then we used OCR to digitize that information into text. Then you had an invoice processing bot, which classifies invoices into PO-based, non-PO based. And then it does a whole 3-way match. It does the entire exception and approval workflow. It works with the entire OFS and Oracle EBS ERP system for the whole accounting piece. And then you finally have an analytics bot where we gave them insight that, all right, if you have these invoices, these are the ones which have time payment. These are the ones where you can actually go ahead and tell your vendors that, you know what, I've paid it on time, give me my early payment discount, so on and so forth. So this is typically how you articulate the business value of an RPS solution. For these guys, it was a savings of about $1.5 million in about 3 years, which is about 46% of what they were kind of spending earlier. Now, I gave you an example of this map, which is a level 0 and a level 1 map. What is level 0? Level 0 is all of these, and level 1 is the one level down. This is an example of a much more detailed map where within each of the transactions, you have sub-transactions. So for example, within general accounting, you have master data management, sub-ledger closing, allocations, revenue reviews, journal vouchers, so on and so forth. And for each one of them, we've specified what is the RPA potential in terms of high, medium, low, or none. This is courtesy UiPath, which we're showing you here. And remember, I spoke about 2 types of bots, attended bot and unattended bot. Now, whatever you see here with a yellow dot, these are examples where an unattended bot cannot do it. The ideal scenario, guys, is that we do everything using unattended bots because that's true touch-free automation. But wherever it's not possible, you do the entire piece using attended bots. So wherever you see this yellow dot are kind of cases of those attended bots. So then I have a slide which kind of compares the finance of yesterday versus the finance of tomorrow. But again, before I do this, let me quickly check in case people have any more questions. All right. How can I reach you from CA Pandurang? I'm going to share my details, Pandurang, after this session ends. You can reach me with that. Can procurement to payment be digitized using RPA with in-house workflow as a substitute to source to pay? Absolutely, Jansham, it can be done. Please reach out. I'm going to share a workflow with you. Is this webinar video available for review later? I request the organizers to answer this question. Lakshmi Narayan asks, is it preferable for big companies or small companies? So Lakshmi Narayan, the answer is ROI, right? In case if you invest in the cost of licenses and development, if it benefits you, then you can do it for a small company as well. Otherwise, if it doesn't benefit you. So it's not a question of big company or small company. Even in big companies, sometimes the ROI is not justified. So you have to calculate the ROI. Please share framework for RP implementation, UiPath, automation anywhere. I'm going to share this. Since organizations like SAP are having software, is the bot required? Explain the necessity of bot while I'm having SAP. So Fayaz, good question again. Fayaz, thank you so much for a series of all these wonderful questions. Now, SAP is digitizing your entire thing and centralizing your entire thing. But let's take the case of automation within SAP. So I think that's a good opportunity. I wanted to show you one more example of exactly this, of how and why do you need to automate within SAP. And I'm going to show you an example of how RPA kind of integrates with artificial intelligence and machine learning to do this using automation anywhere. The previous example which I showed you was for UiPath. Now I'm going to show you an example for automation anywhere. So just give me a second while I kind of fetch this file, and I hope I have this handy. Yes, I have this. So let me once again sharing my screen. And yeah, I think you're able to see it again.
Hi, Saurabh. Sorry to interfere. Sorry to interrupt you. So I think we are running out of time. Maybe if you can conclude it in 2 to 5 minutes, I really appreciate it.
Sure. Absolutely. My bad. I
know this is a very long session. You are making it so interesting, but we have the time limit. So just to ensure that there is a discipline on the time and everything. So please appreciate if you can wind up.
That's okay. A very fair point, Sai. Thank you so much for kind of keeping that check.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do now is, I think most of the questions have been answered. Whatever has not been answered, guys, please reach out. This is a small comparison between finance of yesterday and the finance of tomorrow. And this table, probably you can study this by yourself when I share it with you. The idea is that a lot of these services are going to change. And in the end, what I just want to tell you guys is, remember that RPA is dominated by process. Technology here is just an enabler. So it's a massive opportunities for CAs to transform finance. And there is a big demand in the market for people who understand accounting, people who understand financial services, and people who can kind of work with that and use technology to do something there. So it's a big opportunity. Please feel free to make the most of it. Now, here is the details which you've been requesting for. This is a QR code which links it to this form. What I would request you to do is just go ahead and fill this form. And I know that some of your questions have not been answered. If you want to reach out to me with a specific question, go and click and fill this form with your specific question. Feel free to request for specific material. And here, when you fill this form, I'm also going to give you a copy of this presentation. Please also specify any other material or any other support which you might need, and we'll be happy to help you out. Finally, here's my email address, and here is my LinkedIn handle. I'm usually very active on LinkedIn. Please do send me a request. And yeah, so I just want to leave you guys with this slide here to make sure that you have a support system of reaching out. And I just wanted to thank Sai and Kaiser for kind of organizing this and giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you guys. Thank you for all of your wonderful questions, and I kind of really hope that I was able to add some value. Thank you so much, Sai.
Yes. Thank you, Saurabh. It was a really pleasure to have you here. And I really appreciate you that you are kind enough to cover this topic so comprehensively. And at the same time, you are very simplified. And so it was really an eye-opening that what's coming in the future, and we can't ignore this, and we have to adapt it sooner or later. And I can vouch for the success of this your presentation, that still we are having more than 100 attendees glued to the screen now, listening till the end, which shows and demonstrates the importance of this topic and your eloquency and interactive way of presenting this session. So really appreciate from ICI Kuwait chapter, and I appreciate you have given your contact details. So members whose questions can't be answered, they can reach out to you. As you mentioned, we will share this presentation with all the attendees today, so they can go through more in detail. Thank you very much. And with this, we can end our session for today morning.
Thank you, Gaurav, for your accepting the invitation, and really appreciate.
There is one
I know definitely you made very intellectual remarks. Thanks a lot once again. Over to you, Kaiser.
There is one quick one which I want to mention. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Kaiser.
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Just a quick one on the subcommittee, what we mentioned. I announced the executive committee and the subcommittee. Of late, we've got 3 nominations which we would be including them in. One is, as I said, Anup Dhan would be in the subcommittee. There are 2 members. As we have changed the bylaws, with the change, there will be the chairman stepping down at the end of the first year after his tenure gets over and moves to the advisory. Similarly, second year, chairman steps down and moves to the advisory. So there are 2 new members who would be inducted. Every year, there would be 1 member inducted in the committee to keep the total of 9 executive committee members. In that respect, there are 2 members who have been nominated, one being George Koladi from Deloitte, and the other is Amit Arora from Ernst & Young. So these are 2 members who would initially come in the subcommittees right now and eventually move up the ladder. So welcome these 2 members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you.